recommendations in relation to the report. And I was a member of that committee, and it made about 38 recommendations. And some of the key recommendations, particularly around eligibility, safeguards, special training for doctors, oversight in relation to a review committee, and assessment for capacity in terms of those that want to avail of assisted dying. So this is the legal framework for assisted dying and how it could actually work in Ireland. So it's an important piece of legislation, and it continues, I suppose, the recommendations from the Joint Committee. On 2020, I introduced the Dignity and Dying Bill. It went to second stage, and as a support, there was a clear majority in support of the recommendations. So this is a huge milestone in terms of this issue. So the next part of, I suppose, the progress of this is legislation. In opposition, we have put this bill forward, and hopefully, in the lifetime of this government, the government will adopt this bill. It's possible that they could adopt it and legislate for it in the time of this government. So I think there's public support out there. In all kind of polls have indicated that there is a clear support in changing legislation around assisted dying, and it's a very important issue for a lot of people in terms of if they ever want to be if they're ever in that situation, would they actually want to avail of assisted dying? I think the fundamental kind of question we ask is that people should have a choice in terms if they're in that situation. Most people will never want to choose assisted dying, but there should be a choice in terms of end-of-life care and so forth. So we have 3 speakers. They're going to introduce themselves over the next course of 10 minutes. So the first speaker is John Wall.
Hi, my name is John Wall, and I suppose what brings me to the table is that I'm living with stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and I support the principle of assisted dying. And in that guise, I'd just like to thank Gino for the immense amount of work to get us to this point, and indeed this bill, which takes into account the recommendations from the Joint Committee. I'm saying that the recommendations from it, the 38 recommendations, speaks volumes as to how Ireland has progressed in terms of the national conversation, because the support for the principle of assisted dying is immense, and I believe, if not implemented beforehand, will certainly become an electoral issue over the next 12 months. The people that I've spoken to across all age groups, bar none, are broadly fully supportive of the implementation of legislation which will allow for assisted dying, given the guidelines and the revamped bill that Gino is introducing today, that will invariably assist in implementation. I've come across far too many people that have needlessly suffered despite the best intervention of palliative care services in this country, and we have phenomenal palliative care services. I have nothing but good things to say about them and the organisation and the work that they do, but sometimes, despite their best efforts, people suffer, and that's something that I'm passionately supportive of in terms of the avoidance of such suffering where possible and where appropriate. And I think it's an important part of the discussion as well to let people know that it's a very simplistic approach in terms of explanation, but this bill provides for the right to apply for something, and that application will subsequently be vetted by appropriately qualified healthcare professionals. And the safeguards that are in place for a reason, and that needs to be understood by some of the commentators who may be, shall we say, opposed to the principle. Some of the commentary is not fully reflective of what Gino and what Tom and what Jenny and indeed all politicians in Dáil Éireann are trying to do. And I say all politicians because there's cross-party support for this, and that's reflective of the support right across the island of Ireland for what we're trying to achieve. So I think it's really important that our legislators look at this new bill that has taken into account the recommendations from the committee, and it's certainly something that could be implemented within the lifetime of this current government. It's a debate and discussion that needs to be continued within the lifetime of this government. Otherwise, we have recommendations from the committee that basically gather dust on a shelf, and it's a waste of public resources, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of the committee's significant amount of time that they put into it if this conversation is not continued to a point that I guess we're taking it seriously and ultimately hoping to achieve what we never thought possible a few short years ago.
Thanks, John. Tom, would you like to say a few words?
I would, but I find it difficult to know what to say that I haven't said before. It's something that I've been speaking about for quite some time now. In fact, I suppose it's 15 years or maybe 16 years since it first became public that my partner, Mary Fleming, wanted the option. It was only an option that she was looking for, not there was no certainty to it. And that's the thing of that with most people that I come across. It's like insurance, that they want this option to be there for when or if they do decide to even look at that option from a serious point of view. That 15 years, things have changed dramatically in Ireland. During that time when it became public, in fact, it was due to a headline in a newspaper because of an end-of-life meeting that we had here in Dublin, that in fact was booked to be here in Boswell's Hotel, and 3 days before the meeting was due to happen, Boswell's cancelled on us. So, I mean, we hold a record, I suppose, of being they've only cancelled 2 other people, and one was an American anti-Holocaust person. So I don't think we want to be in the same category as that, but that's neither here nor there. So we found a collective up off Mountjoy Square, and we had the meeting there. And as a result of that, there was a paper headline saying that I will kill my wife. And that's how this whole thing became public in Ireland, our situation. But since then, as I say, things have changed dramatically. I got lots of abuse at that time, a police investigation into it, but now I'm getting nothing but support. It's an incredible change, brought about, I think, to a great extent by Mary herself, because then people didn't understand what this was all about. It was something that I had never come across when Mary said it to me before, although I've been an activist in all sorts of things. I was one of the very first members of the Dublin Housing Action Committee back in the 60s, 70s, when we occupied buildings because of a housing crisis, believe it or not. And things haven't changed an awful lot since then. We used to break into empty buildings and reconnect. One of my jobs was to reconnect the electricity in them. But that's neither here nor there. But so, as I say, I've been involved in various things, and then got involved in the MS, and now this as well, and also cannabis as a medicine. It was by far the best medicine that Mary had. But this, as I say, this situation has changed dramatically. And I suppose giving it the publicity has also made other people give, just like we did. People were accessing the drugs to put away for their future. As I say, like we brought our drugs in from Mexico. Those lines the availability of the drugs that are available have, I suppose, closed to a great extent. So they're becoming very difficult to get, and there are scam sites all over the place. But a Canadian guy called Ken decided that he got access to some of these drugs, and he decided, out of the goodness of his heart, that he would provide them to people at the cost at which he got them. And this was advertised around the world. And Ken was selling these drugs for practically, as I say, very little, with making no money out of it. And he was reported by the Americans. And the Canadian authorities went in to Ken and arrested Ken, and he's now charged. He hasn't been tried yet, but he's charged with murder, attempted murder, and assisted suicide. But the amazing thing about it was that when they checked his records, he had already dispatched 50 of these packages to Ireland. and there were nearly 200 people on the fight for that to happen.